Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. This is Instructor Pat out here in Houston, Texas, doing a Texas PSI practical bag exam layout. For your state board practical, it's very, very important that you guys have the proper tools and just have the proper knowledge that you need to have to make sure you guys pass this test. The very first thing that we have to make sure in our test is to make sure that we have our pre-examination bag set up, right? So with our pre-examination setup bag, we want to make sure that we have a bag that is big enough for pre-examination, and it must be labeled examination setup and disinfection pre-sanitized implements, right? So what we do here with this bag, you're going to make sure that you want to have a roll of toilet paper and a roll of paper towels. You also want to make sure that you have 2 trash bags, one labeled trash and the other labeled solid linen. Very, very important that you guys use that. What I would encourage you guys to have, rather than this clear tape, is to make sure you guys have some duct tape, because once these bags get pretty much heavy, you guys want to make sure that you have the proper tape to hold up everything that you have, right? So we have our tape, we have our bags labeled trash, and the other one labeled solid linen. We also would have our blood spill kit. You have to make sure you have a blood spill kit for yourself that is set up on your station, as well as your sanitation, hand sanitizer, as well as water, and everything must be labeled as so that way you don't get points took off, right? So just in our pre-examination, this is everything you must have in your pre-examination setup. And you have to make sure that you have everything labeled properly whenever doing your pre-examination setup. All right, our next bag that we're gonna get into is our second part of the exam, which would be your manicure service, right? So we're gonna go into our kit and we're gonna pull out everything manicure. Again, you wanna make sure that your bags are labeled correctly, right? So we're gonna go into our manicure bag here. That's gonna contain our finger bowl. It's gonna contain our soapy water, antibacterial soap water. Also your towels. You wanna make sure that you have one towel that you roll up for your mannequin hand to place on, right? Place a towel over that rolled over towel, and you will have 2 towels just sitting on the side. So I would say about 4 towels. You never know what might happen. You can drop a towel, anything happens. So the main thing is to make sure you guys prep your bags as you should. So about 4 towels here, right? We have our mannequin hand. With our mannequin hand, you want to make sure you put nails on these mannequins, right? Very, very important that you prep your mannequin to have nails on them. Very, very important. Now, you could use the mannequin holder, or you could just go ahead and manually use the mannequin. The main thing, if you go ahead and use the mannequin hand without the holder, you want to get your technique down from finger to finger and knowing how to really, really utilize this mannequin not being on a holder. So time equal technique, guys. So we got the mannequin holder and our pre-sanitized implements, you guys. Very, very important. We have to have our pre-sanitized implements. In our pre-sanitized implements, we have cotton balls, right? We also have cuticle oil. We have cuticle remover. We have finger brush. I have finished the nails with the buffer. I have few files in here. You never know what might happen. Anything can happen, you guys. You guys can drop, you could drop your files. You could drop anything, and make sure you have about 2 orange wood sticks in here, right? So that is our pre-examination. After pre-examination, we get into our manicure. So that is everything that we must have for our manicure, and it's very, very important that you guys become very, 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 very great friends with your PSI packet, because your PSI packet is going to give you everything that you need. Very, very important that you know that PSI packet from top to bottom, from setting up your manicure table, to sanitizing your hands, to sanitizing the client's hand, to soften the cuticles, cleaning the nails, drying the hand, applying the cuticle remover, pushing back the cuticles, cleaning under the free edge, and finish those nails. That's very, very important when it comes to the manicure. But I'm gonna tell you the very, very key important that you have to know about manicure service. You have to know and remember that every time you trash, you sanitize, you guys. That's very, very key, and it's very, very important, because what these proctors are looking for, they're looking for your technique to make sure that as a professional, you know everything that you're doing when it comes to practice. And that's everything that we have right there for our manicure service. All right, our next service that we have is our professional shave. Again, make sure everything is labeled. In your professional shave, you want to make sure that you have about 7 towels. Now, since the practical here in Texas is a little different and everything is on a mannequin, you want to make sure. So let me tell you about the lather steam towel lather, right? So with the lather steam towel lather process, they want to make sure that you have 2 wet towels, right? You want to have 2 wet towels in your bag. So you want to kind of get a big enough bag, as like this. It's 2 different sizes. You want to get kind of like the pre-examination setup bag for your professional shave. That way you could put 2 towels in 2 different bags like this. That way they are wet. They want to make sure that your towel, so we're thinking hot towel, even though it might not be hot, we're thinking hot towel. So the main thing that we want to make sure that happens in our professional shave is that when we do the lather, steam towel lather, that we have those towels wet in the correct bags. And you guys follow me on my next live Texas Practical. I will be doing the whole procedure on everything. So right now we're just doing the setup. So it's very important that we have the towels. Those 2 towels that we're gonna have, those are gonna be wet. We wanna make sure that we have our cape. We wanna make sure that we have our shaving cream. We wanna make sure that we have our razor with the razor in there, you guys, right? Now, if we were doing the state board practical with a person, we would definitely need a shower cape. We would need the shower cap for the headrest, the shower cap or towel for headrest. But since right now, pandemic times, we're not using that pretty much. So you guys can have it packed in your bag just to have it, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to take points off for not having that for the headrest, right? So that's pretty much what we have for our professional shave. All right, our next set is the exposure incident. You guys, I know you guys was like, well, in your pre-examination, you had a blood exposure kit. Yep, you gotta have one for you, and you gotta have one for your client. And your blood exposure kit. We have gloves, we have Band-Aids, we have alcohol pads, we have cotton balls, Q-tips, antiseptic powder or liquid, 2 Ziploc bags, right? And then you got like, what are the Ziploc bags for? Well, you got to think about it when you first take the alcohol pad and you cleanse the cut, right? You're just gonna dispose it in the trash. We have to make sure we dispose those in the hazard bags, right? So you put that in a hazard bag, right? Sanitize your hands. Then you're gonna go back in here. You're gonna take the Q-tip. You're gonna dip that Q-tip on your septic powder. You're gonna place that on the wound 10 seconds. You're gonna take off, right? Then you're gonna come back you're gonna take that Q-tip, you're gonna put it in your other bag, right? And you're gonna dispose of it in the trash, right? Then you're gonna take the Band-Aid off, put it on the wound, and pretty much done with this pretty much service. So that is very, very important for the blood exposures, to make sure you have 2 Ziploc bags to where you're disposing them, because you have to make sure you understand the blood procedure when it comes to having a blood exposure, and making sure you sanitize your hands and putting on those gloves before you do your blood exposure. That's all we got for blood exposure. All right, our next one is our facial service. And as we know, everything gotta be labeled. Everything gots to be labeled. Amen? So we have our facial service. With the facial service, you wanna make sure you have the headband to wrap the head. Very, very key. You have to wrap, then we have to place a bag. Can anybody tell me why we have to make sure we have these two? Because of hair. You don't want to get the product all in the client's hair, right? Then we got our pre-sanitized implements, right? So in our facial pre-sanitized implements, we have our facial cream. Everything must be labeled. Facial cream. Then we will have our cleansing cream, massage cream, cleansing cream. Then we have spatulas to take our product out. We have our toner. We have our moisturizing oil. And on our PSI packet, it doesn't tell us if we need to use towels or we can wipe with cotton rounds. So with the facial, we can go more so using the cotton rounds, because it'll make it a whole lot more easier for us, right? And we will do that again, as I say, on my next video upload for the actual practical that we're gonna work out. So that's pretty much everything that we gotta make sure that we have when it comes to the facial. And that's it. All right, our next bag that we're gonna get is haircut. I make notes behind myself too, a few things that I have to do for the students to make sure. So with the haircut, don't get points taken off for not having your clipper disinfected. Don't get points taken off for not having your talc powder, right? Of course, we gotta make sure we have a cape. We gotta make sure we have our clip over comb. We gotta make sure we have our taper comb. Got to make sure we have an all-purpose comb. We have to make sure we also have clippers. You guys listen. When it comes to the haircut service, it's very, very important that we understand that we are free-handed. You know what I mean? You won't be going level for level. You know what I mean? So the main thing is time creates technique. So the main thing when it comes to haircutting is when it comes to the mannequin around the parietal, around the nape area, you have to free hand. You're doing a free hand technique. They want to see your free hand from the nape right here to the occipital bone, right? Then from there, you're gonna be clipping and comb. You're gonna be clipping and comb all around the parietal ridge area. You know what I mean? So it's very, very important that we know what it is that we have to have, and we know the techniques that we have to master. So with this video, just prepping you guys on everything that you need to have, making sure you have these, don't have outliners in them, but just making sure you guys have outliners, because you know we have to do the arching over the ear. Very, very important, right? We have to make sure we have a clipper brush to brush people up, brush the client off. We have to make sure we have 2 neck strips. We have to make sure that we have, this was the combs and everything has to be in, pre-sanitized implements, clipper over comb, taper comb, all-purpose comb, scissors of choice that you're gonna use, and we have aftershave, you know what I mean? So the main thing is to make sure that through each bag that you guys are prepping, and as you go through each service from pre-sanitation all the way down to 11, that you guys are mastering your techniques. You guys should not move on to the next until you have really, really mastered your techniques, you guys. You know what I mean? So that's what I teach my students, to make sure we know that time creates technique. So the more time that you spend prepping your bags, the more time that you know of knowledge of what's in your bags, the smoother your practicals are gonna go. So that's what we got for haircutting. All right, our next set is the blow dry and thermal curl, all right? So in our blow dry thermal curl, we already have our water sitting out on our station, right? We already had it out. Make sure everything is pre-sanitized, whatever it is, you guys. If it's extra in your, if it's extra in your bag, no matter what it is, it must say pre-sanitized implements, right? So we have our rod paper. This is where we test the temperature of the curling iron, right? So we have our curling iron here. Curling iron. We have blow dry. Of course, blow dry I pulled out, but we want to make sure we have the connector for it, the vent connector for this. Very, very important. Technique is everything when you guys, not on the client, but technique is everything. And like I say, I will be going through the videos as an instructor, demonstrating the practical on my next upload. So you guys, make sure we get the techniques down as we're mastering everything. You know what I mean? Make sure we use vent brush. Like I tell people, you want to find one that's better for you. You know what I mean? This vent brush is kind of cool, but I found a little smaller one that gives you a better control. So whatever works for you guys. You know what I mean? Make sure we have our clips and we have our comb, rat tail comb. Like I told you guys, we want to make sure that everything is pre-sanitized. We want to make sure everything is pre-sanitized when it comes to this. Just because we did the hair cutting, you know, depending on the proctor, they might ask you to take that haircut drape off. Then we come into the blow dry and thermal curl. The main thing is to make sure you want to have a drape in your hair cutting, and you want to make sure you have the proper drape for your thermal curl, and make sure everything is pre-sanitized. Even just because I'm putting this back in like this doesn't mean you're gonna put it in like this. We have to make sure we master this, you guys. So make sure pre-sanitized implements. Make sure you guys have everything that you need. Make sure you guys take your time and make sure you go through your PSI packet. Doesn't matter if you're in Texas, it doesn't matter what state you're in. The main thing is to know that you got it, right? Main thing is that you guys got it. So that's what we have for our blow dry and thermal curl service. Rat tail combs, gloves. We already know we're getting ready to do a chemical service, so we are applying gloves. We already know before we put on gloves, we sanitize, right? Then we have our protective cream. Like I told you guys, everything must be labeled. And then we have our cape, chemical cape. Chemical cape, very, very important, you guys. Chemical cape, not a regular hair cutting cape, but a chemical cape. Remember, these proctors have been doing this stuff for years. You know what I mean? They know this stuff like the back of their hand. So it's very, very important as professionals, we have this same obligation. As professionals, we know what it is that we're doing. And this is what makes, this is what makes customers, satisfied with who we are, because we are not just professionals, but we are mastered professionals. We mastered our craft. Time equal technique. Yep, and that's everything that we have for chemical application. All right, going into our bag, we have our permanent waving. Permanent waving, very, very important. We already know everything. You gotta put pre-sanitized on here, y'all. We can throw it in there like that. Pre-sanitize, stick it on there somewhere, pre-sanitize. So we got our pre-sanitized perm rods. We have our cotton round coil. This is what we put through our cotton rounds. So when we go ahead and add our wave solution, we do our wave solution like a Z. You know what I'm saying? Very, very important. Very, very important. We already know this is a chemical service. So before we put these gloves on, sanitize. Right? And end papers. Pre-sanitize, you guys. Gotta make sure we have pre-sanitize on this, you guys. So it's very, very important that we know and we have this for our chemical texture services. Only thing I'm missing out of here too is 2 rat tail combs. You guys want to make sure you have your rat tail combs pre-sanitized. I had one in the other one, so that's the reason why I was in my other video. But pre-sanitized implements, you guys. This is your permanent wave service. All right, our last service of the day, well, second to last service of the day, is single process color retouch, right? So when we dealing with our single process color retouch, we already know everything is still everything. Applicator bowl, gel product, we got our rat tail, all-purpose comb, sanitized implements, pre-sanitized, applicator brush, pre-sanitized. This is how this stuff's supposed to be, you guys. Fall technique, pre-sanitized. Just like I dropped that, it happens, y'all. So just in the state of me just dropping this, what are you gonna do? Sanitize. Gotta remember that, you guys. Time equal technique, and we gotta make sure. So we got our fall for our fall technique. This is where we do our strand test, right? We do our strand test with this. We have another pre-sanitized applicator brush, because guess what? You're gonna use 2. One is gonna be to do the strand test. After you finish strand test, you're gonna put this same applicator brush back into the bowl. No, you're not. You're gonna dispose of it and sanitize your hands. So this is for your strand test. This big one is for your regular color retouch, right? And then we have Q-tips. I bet y'all can't tell me what this Q-tip for. I bet you can't. I bet you it's only a few people right now that can tell me what this Q-tip for. It's to test the irritation to see if they are allergic to a product. So that is where we do our patch test, skin test, aniline derogatories in a product. So we gotta make sure that we know this stuff, you guys. Single color process. Well, that is it for our just setting up our bags for practical. Again, my name is Instructor Pat out here at Franklin Institute. I'm out here in Houston, Texas, y'all. There's a lot of people who have really gained their hours, but have not really practiced their practicals. So maybe this video will be very helpful on you guys really packing and doing what it is that you need to do. Make sure you guys like, make sure you guys share, make sure you guys subscribe, man. There's a lot of a lot of transitions that are happening in the beauty and barber profession, and I'm glad that you are mastering your profession. Till the next time.